Alright, what's up, video game junkies? Starting a new series here. I've got some friends here with me. This is Noah, Jeremy. These are basically just some friends that I've worked with previously, and basically at our job we spend a lot of time talking about video games, comic books, movies. So that's what this is going to fucking be. It's going to be called CGM, which is an acronym for exactly what I just said. So we're going to talk about different things like that. We'll probably make a 30-minute show out of this, maybe on a weekly or monthly basis. Depends on time constraints, but that's what this is going to be. Anyways, guys, so basically, just kind of give a little brief background. I've met these gentlemen at Blockbuster, where we all used to work, which is whatever.
We met at Blockbuster.
It's true.
I want to do.
Since we were 5, we're like, we met at Blockbuster.
No one needs to know this.
When we were 5, renting Dragon Ball Z.
When we were young, I remember going to Blockbusters and renting like a Nintendo 64.
Dude, I remember
like,
renting. The first time I ever played the DK game for the 64 was a rental at Blockbuster, and then I got so pissed because I found out you had to have the expansion pack, which I did not have. And I like pitched a bitch fit until my granny took me to Walmart to buy an expansion pack so I could play the game.
They did that shit with Majora's Mask.
What a ripoff too! What did it do? It made the thing rumble. It would not
no,
play without the rumble pack.
No, it was extended memory because the Donkey Kong, because it was rare. So of course they put so much more work into it that there was not enough memory for the 64 to actually run it. So, and they did it with Majora's Mask.
Like,
that's what it affected me.
That's it right up there.
I begged to go play it, and then I got it, and then was like, Granny, I need an expansion pack. I can't play the game. She's like, well, Bub, how much is it gonna cost? Doesn't fucking matter.
We're going right now because I gotta play DK.
Say it mattered about the stuff.
We're not talking price right now.
I thought it was a rumble pack.
Yeah, expansion pack. N64 expansion pack required to play DK64. No, they had the rumble packs, but that's something that went into your fucking control.
I'm confused.
Because what's good is a rumble pack gonna do in the 64? Because then the 64 is just over there shaking, and you're like, I don't feel this like a cord.
Like when playing an After Dark game, some kind of a horror game. Starts making sounds and weird movements,
so many
casting shadows on the walls.
But we spend a lot of time seriously there just reading comic books.
Not working.
Anything but.
Watching movies. We don't play video games. But that's what we do.
We brought our Game Boy several times.
Actually, I believe when I started, these two were running through the Pokemon series from the very beginning so they could get ready for X and Y this October. So, yeah. So actually, that's what we do. That's what we do at Blockbuster, and then people wonder why it's going bankrupt.
It's really not because of us.
But that's how we met, and basically, we thought it would be really fun to present that as a video format. So really, we don't have a set thing right now. I think we wanted to talk about a few things, but we didn't have basic things. I know when we talk about comic books, what we want to do futuristically is see what you guys want to hear. Do you want to hear us talk about spoilers? Do you want to hear us talk about main series? One of the wonderful things here with us, I'm very heavy DC. Noah is very heavy with Marvel. He reads a lot of Marvel stuff, and honestly, Jeremy kind of sits in the middle with that grounds. So, I mean, you could throw us out anything. We do want to try to do some indie titles. I know we've talked about that to review. So we'll probably do something like that. And if you guys want to hear spoilers, maybe we'll even just kind of do a breakthrough of what the last comic was that came out last Tuesday or whatever that may be. That DC rebooted 2 years ago, I think. And I don't know when Marvel rebooted.
Pretty recently.
Yeah, but Marvel's got a new series of comics, which is just Marvel Now. And basically everything has been rebooted to a degree. Like, it may not be a complete entire reboot, but it's where you can jump in an issue one and understand anybody. So we're definitely very heavy into that, so that's something that we would recommend to you guys, and we want to talk about, for sure.
We'd lead from Zack Snyder right into Man of Steel if we didn't have an anti-DC guy in the room.
It's not that I don't want to see it. I just haven't. I still haven't seen Iron Man 3.
Anti-DC guy whose favorite movie is Dark Knight comic book-wise.
Probably so, yes. But I've said, I love Batman. Batman's fantastic. And
it was the beginning of Detective Comics.
DC,
so.
Here's the thing. Like, I love The Watchmen, and I love Batman. But then there's Superman, there's the Green Lantern, there's the Aquaman. It's just
the Aquaflash.
There you go. So Aquaflash. It sounds actually pretty cool.
Okay, honestly, would you like DC more if Aquaman wasn't even in it? Because I feel like there's a very, very common hatred towards Aquaman.
I feel like it's just kind of a joke, and
it all spawns off of the Family Guy scene.
It doesn't spawn off of that.
For most people in media, though. Not you.
It maybe helped them realize that, hey, wait a second.
But that joke was already there, that they're like, okay, this is a guy in water.
Well,
Robot Chicken did the same exact thing with Aquaman. He was everybody's bitch on that. It's Aquaman. What is he going to do?
I think that's something that DC did realize, though. I think that's very true, because I don't know, you haven't. I know you've read the reboot of Justice League, and very much so, Aquaman is a badass.
He's not a bitch, either. He tells Superman to pretty much to fuck
Injustice is another good
And that's what I was going to say. He leads in, dude. Anybody's played
he was willing to step up against. More specifically for those, I mean, that may be a spoiler, but in the Injustice comic books, Aquaman is one of the 3 that's willing to step up against Superman and say, I don't support you.
Yeah, he's one.
So, I mean, as much as someone in this corner may not like Superman, you don't really want to fuck with Superman.
And you see why once he says, fuck you, Superman.
Yeah. I mean, he's just killing kids and shit. He's kind of an asshole. But I love Superman. But
do we want to put in the spoiler of what happens? Or do we want to let them read the Injustice?
You know what? I'm going to go ahead and say this right now. If you're watching this, there's probably going to be spoilers because there's no holds barred here. I mean...
Because Superman straight goes to the bottom of Atlantis, picks up the entire city out of the ocean, and drops it in the middle of the desert.
Spoiler.
Spoiler.
But because of that, hopefully somebody will say, that's badass, I'm going to read it.
It is.
Because it's an amazing series. It's great.
I think that the point being said, Aquaman was a douchebag before, and I think it does hold back the Justice League.
Which series owns the video game world? I think you have to give it to DC. Just due to Arkham
You have to do that because, yes, those. But you also have to do it because DC was the first ever MMORPG on a console, which was the PlayStation 3 with DC.
That's true. That's huge.
Universe Online.
Really
and it's fucking spectacular.
And you have what do you have working for Marvel? You have Marvel Alliance.
But Marvel, one thing that I don't understand why they're not being stronger with this, but right now they have Marvel Heroes, which is a over-the-top type Diablo-looking type game. I haven't played it myself. Maybe that's a strong thing, but I think DC broke that barrier because they were able to get themselves on a PlayStation, which puts you in the hands of video gamers.
DC dominates in games, I think. So
I don't know if they dominate because the Spider-Man games have really, really done well too.
Spider-Man games, that's true. They
PlayStation 2, PlayStation 2, in the movie Spider-Man, the Spider-Man games based on the movies were the best fucking thing.
But then it's been
ever
rough
played
since then because like the Wolverine games, the Hulk games.
I thought you were going to
Ultimate Alliance though. I mean,
Ultimate Alliance was good, but we never really got into playing co-op. Like we played it for a while, and it just got.
I played the first one. I got excited about the second one.
What was the X-Men game? Legacy, X-Men Legacy.
Legacy, Apocalypse, Legends. I mean, I've never played any of them. I mean, they were what came before. Oh wait, X-Men Legacy was the one where you picked your own.
Yeah.
I beat it. I liked it.
It was good?
Yeah, I actually liked it.
I heard bad things about it.
And it's very short. It's very just hack and slash quick. I mean, it feels a lot. I mean, it feels like those Spider-Man games that didn't have free run.
Yeah.
Like Edge of Time and stuff like that. But
you got the Marvel vs. Capcom too.
That's true.
But I have to say, I like Mortal Kombat versus DC better. I've liked both of them better than Marvel vs. Capcom is so much going on at once, where Mortal Kombat's always been one of my favorite fighting games to begin with.
I agree, and I prefer the Mortal Kombat in DC, but I think Marvel vs. Capcom has the monopoly on that.
I agree there.
Probably. But with Injustice now, Injustice may have tipped it.
It's still not that arcade classic, though.
More people liking them, but I would argue that the DC games are better, because if you want a more complete game, rather than just beat the shit out of each other, DC's definitely the way to go, because in Marvel...
Keep going with that.
Because DC versus Mortal Kombat, the first one, had a great story. Loved the brutality side of it, even though it was fucking impossible to do the button combos. It was fun to look up on YouTube, at least. And then it was fun, and then Injustice...
Oh, it was hard as hell.
The story for Injustice is freaking amazing. It just blew me away. I mean, it's just great. You got the fighting styles with 3 for each one, and the same basic style they did the last just regular Mortal Kombat game, which was also spectacular.
The challenges were good because it would take you 8 years to finally complete.
Fuck those challenges.
And they're really...
Fuck those challenges.
Solomon Grundy, man, that motherfucker.
But I think also on the same note, recently, if you're talking about Marvel versus DC in games, I think Marvel has stepped it up a lot since, I don't know if, I think you might have played some of it, but the Amazing Spider-Man game
Based off the third.
That picks off. It picks off right after the last Amazing Spider-Man.
Oh, the one that just came out.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Well, it's been like a year or whatever. But anyways, really strong, really good. And then when Activision, that's why I walked over there. But Activision picked up and did Deadpool with High Moon Studios. Like those games to me were phenomenal. So I think there is a part where Marvel obviously wants to make stronger, better titles. Deadpool is amazing.
I don't remember a Superman game coming out.
Last I actually remember is the 64.
Let's put it this way: if you and you guys probably wouldn't be that heavy as a gamer, but it is stated that the worst video games ever made to this day are E.T. for the Atari, which destroyed the video game world until Nintendo came back with Rob, and then the second worst, or possibly just as equally bad, is Superman 64. There have been Superman games past that. There was a...
Was there one for Superman Returns?
Yes, there was. I
remember seeing that.
Okay, like it had great ambitions. At its time, it was the biggest world. Metropolis was the biggest world map ever created in a video game. There was a lot of work put into it. It was bigger, because at that time I think it was one of the Grand Theft Autos, but they were like, yeah, we're like really twice the size of Grand Theft Auto. So they were bragging about it. But then the structure fell apart and it destroyed. I mean, it had Kevin Spacey and it had Brandon Roth, but it wasn't spectacular. It had its benefits, but Superman has not had a good game. I think that's safe to say. But
other than his parts in Injustice.
Yeah, his parts. But he's a fucking asshole. But for justified reasons. If you read the comic book series, it's a little bit better understanding on why he's such a dickbag. But anyways. That's that. So yeah,
sexy parts of Injustice.
Yeah, his sexy bits.
We should do a playthrough for how to beat Solomon Grundy, because that took us like 10 hours.
It took a while. Somebody probably did it like their second playthrough.
Yeah, there's a guy watching right now. It's like I did that like.
No, you didn't.
I did that.
If you did, you're a freaking liar.
The wonderful thing about YouTube is assholes that think it's easy can actually post video responses of them doing it.
Yeah, try it. Like to see it.
This guy hates Superman.
But you don't hate Green Lantern and you don't hate Flash.
Hate him. I hated the movie because that was terrible.
But that's because it was marketed to a younger age and they built it up.
It's true. I'm not denying that, but I'm just saying their characters, excluding Batman and the Watchmen, are not nearly as appealing to me.
Yeah, but true. But name a character, or name two franchises that you like better in the Marvel series, better than Batman or Watchmen.
That I like better than?
Better than both of them. Because I think they're your two favorites in the rest of the Marvel.
They're definitely at the top. For sure.
Because I think, comic book wise, I would almost argue you would still like probably Watchmen over...
Probably Watchmen the best. Probably so.
But even though Watchmen's like when somebody says DC, they're not going to think Watchmen.
They don't.
But it's true.
I love the Watchmen, but
it's safe to say that most people don't know Watchmen as a comic book.
Yeah.
I have run into plenty of people that
really
felt
is
that
the
way.
most like famous and like most acclaimed graphic novel.
Right.
I mean, you can't argue that they have better movies already.
They do have better movies.
They have better movies.
When DC gets their shit together, they have better movies. But Green Lantern, I think, I hate to say that because that bashes Marvel, and Marvel's on a strong ride. But I think Green Lantern, when they went into that, they decided that it was better to be like old school Marvel, like the Fantastic Four. And I think that's where they failed but the other thing to blame is this fucking asshole here, because every movie now has to be darker in order to fit with Batman.
Every DC movie.
I mean, it is. And Man of Steel is proof of this, and actually The Amazing Spider-Man is proof of this, because they definitely did the vigilante thing with him.
I think that was
even a
but I
push
loved
now
it.
for Marvel to do the same thing, to try to emulate that, which is why they're having Deadpool as being very controversial right now with the script as being rated mature. And
you say dark though, but Avengers was widely.
Oh, Avengers, but that's Joss Whedon. That's Joss Whedon. It's like, I think if Joss Whedon would have been in charge of the Green Lantern script, I think that he just would have visually found a way to make it fit better. I think that he gets a lot of that acclaim, because I think that all these other nobodies feel like the only way to ever measure up is to measure up to a darker, more earthly, more human.
Let me stand against the crowd here. I didn't hate Green Lantern. I know you.
I
think you hated Green Lantern for two reasons. One, it was somewhat kiddish, and two, that you did not like the CGI. But other than that, like, the creativity parts of it, I still make this argument.
It had cool creativity, but it just wasn't. It didn't do it.
Green Lantern himself, like, I mean, I love Ryan Reynolds to begin with. I love him as an actor. I think the movie itself wasn't that bad. I know it wasn't. I think everybody got let down because they expected it to be an epic comic movie. It was built up to be that.
No, the issue is the Fantastic Four. Actually, it's the same thing. The climax was balls. Like Parallax is fucking an amazing enemy, and that was very short lived. There was so much build up for that, and they focused too much on Hector Hammond, who was a very mediocre character in my opinion. I think it just got lost. Like everyone wanted a big fight with Fantastic Four and Doctor Doom, and that was like, it just happened. And you were like,
there's just things about the movie though that I was just like the whole training scene when he was learning how to, like, it was, what was that?
Did it for like 20 seconds and he's a master.
I can do anything now. That doesn't make any sense.
Too fast of a it was almost like a montage. And they're like,
but I think origin stories will always suffer from that because this may be in spoiler territory, but Man of Steel definitely abandoned a lot of the origin, which was a little bit disappointing in my opinion. Because it was just a lot of flashbacks that were quick, rapid. But again, maybe they just want to do that because they're like, you already know the Green Lantern's origin. You already know Superman's origin. Let's just get past.
I think it's how you do the origin story though, because I think you can do that if you're not focusing on the origin. Like Green Lantern was taking place right in the middle of his origin.
It was quick.
Yet they were just skipping through things. But you can also do it like The Dark Knight, where you're not necessarily sitting in the origin of Batman. It kind of flowed. I don't know. I think
Batman Begins was an amazing origin.
It was. It did a great job.
I was disappointed by Man of Steel because Batman Begins did it so well. But I think Zack Snyder was smart with Man of Steel.
I think it's how you do it. I think you can do an origin story, but you just have to tell it right and keep it interesting. And I think Green Lantern was just it was too choppy.
It was. It had great potential too. That annoyed me.
But I don't think the potential died though, because even when it ended, I was like, okay, you've done it. You've done the first part. Let's move forward. The main topic that we wanted to talk about, I think overall, because it's what's happening, and everybody's talking about it, so maybe it's overly stated. Excuse me. But we're talking next consoles. So I think what we will do is just kind of state how we feel about certain things. I know that everyone's probably heard things over and over, and I think a lot of people don't know a lot of what has changed with Microsoft too. But I mean, really, we can just kind of jump into this here. I know the Wii U's already happened, and I know a lot of people have not played or don't care because they think Wii is incapable of being adult. I personally own a Wii. I know that's something that I haven't really been able to even share with you guys, sadly. But it has its potential, but I think it's been easily forgotten. A lot of people, are looking at PlayStation and Xbox, and Watch Dogs is actually the biggest thing that people are really looking at. And it's actually coming to Wii U. So I think a lot of people are just like, Nintendo can't do anything. So that kind of gets pushed out of the dirt and no one cares. I think it'll have its potential as time goes on. Because obviously if it can handle a game like Watch Dogs, it's next gen. It's just, people are like, they never do third party developing. So no one cares, but Nintendo's trying. So I don't know what that is, but the main ones right now is PS4 and Xbox One. And I know some of us are very decided, I think. I mean, if I was to say right now what console are you going to buy, I think it's safe to say
PS4 for sure.
Well, I'm going to get both.
Are you on the line?
No, I'm not on the line. I know if there is only one console I'm going to get, it's going to be the Xbox One. That's the only one I'm going to get. And I'm not, as a disclaimer to start this all off with, I'm not going to start by saying I'm 100% sure this is the smartest move. It's just what's going to happen.
Well, I guess that's a good to say. I mean, and I think for me, if it was one console, it would be the PS4. But I always buy every console, and I'm really excited about the Xbox. But right off the beginning, I think the obvious reasons at first were just the simple fact that Xbox was like, oh, use games?
They had a bad E3.
Yeah.
They had a really bad
E3. I don't know how many people, and even just watching, like, Xbox did all theirs, and they talked about not using used games, and then Sony came out, and I don't know if you guys saw that clip, but Sony was like, oh, do you want to know how to do
it was a fantastic
used
ad.
Games?
We should link that.
Here, go play it. I mean, it was fucking, yeah, I mean, I will tag it out, and it really kicked Xbox in the ass. And I think the worst thing about that situation, in my opinion, is a lot of people blame Xbox, but I know that Sony kind of said that was something that they may not do. They may abandon the used game idea.
We originally heard the idea of used games not being, available anymore. It was definitely associated with PlayStation.
It was a hand-in-hand, I think. I don't know if PlayStation just did that to be like, oh, wait till we go to E3 and we just say, fuck you, Xbox, we were joking! But I don't know.
Well, they definitely handed Xbox its ass, and in response, Xbox just did some of the worst marketing I've ever seen in my life.
But I think it's safe to say, did you watch E3 coverage, for the most part, to see most things? Because I think it's safe to say that Xbox had a stronger lineup of games.
Yes, in some way, but I feel like, I do feel like there's some independent games that are still more appealing to me on the PS4 anyway that were shown off. And then, just the way that everything was handled, I didn't care as much about the way the games that Xbox was showing just because they came off as just not a good deal. With between the used games and the price point being $100 more, and then they did not show up to the Q&A that they were scheduled to show up for.
Well, passed by E3, because we're here now, and E3 was a mistake, and I think they've corrected it to the best of their ability.
Yeah,
they did get their asses handed to them, but they have redeemed themselves.
For most people, we haven't touched here on that, and a lot of people don't know, but Microsoft has come out and stated, yeah, we're abandoning what we said. Everything that we said at E3 was bullshit. Now, I know for some people, in my opinion, that's a little reckless on Microsoft because Microsoft had a lot of belief in what they were doing. Like, I know that a lot of people didn't like the press conference or anything like that, but they stood strong, they knew what they were doing, and they were confident that what they were doing was the correct things to do. I know even with them being the form of your media entertainment, I think they knew what they were doing. So that kind of scares me for them to just be like, fuck it, we were just kidding, we're not doing that either.
It's true.
I mean, when I was reading about coverage and everything, and they said that there was a strong possibility Xbox would recant everything they said and change it back, but they said it's going to cost them dearly because of all the deals
look at how much work's been put into it. And there have been developers that said, just because Xbox said we're stopping with that doesn't mean we are. I think Ubisoft was one of them that came out and said, we don't.
Ubisoft.
In a lot of ways, they had their ducks in a row, but then there were other things that were kind of sketch, like they had signed a deal with E3, but then they said that the FIFA Ultimate Team games was going to be exclusive to Xbox, or EA, I'm sorry, yeah. But then they said that the FIFA Ultimate Team was going to be exclusive to Xbox, and then EA said, we've not heard this. We're already making the game for the PS4.
That was something I didn't know.
It's just
it's weird because EA and Xbox seem to have. Don't they have deals? I
feel like they have
gotten each other heavily.
Supposedly so, but at the same time, I don't understand how
Microsoft
and EA were not clear on one. Microsoft thought it was an exclusive, and EA was already making it for the PlayStation.
Again, I'm going to sit here and emphasize that even though it may not be the smartest thing or the best console, I think Xbox has still dominated. Xbox Live has been a huge factor in how smooth it is online and the online features.
Online has been the biggest factor for me, which is why I play
Halo.
Xbox a hell of a lot more than I play the PlayStation. But I do think that PlayStation is trying to fix that. Yeah. And they're now going to start charging a monthly subscription.
Online, PlayStation Plus.
And they're also suggesting that they're going to team up with, I think it's Gaikai Streaming, and start doing the streaming games from older consoles. So that's really exciting.
Sort of like arcade.
So I think that they're stepping in the right direction with their online.
They are. And Xbox, I noticed one thing. A lot of people with the online factor, actually, PlayStation Plus is something that you can subscribe to now, of course, but you don't have to pay to be online, where Xbox you play to be online. And I think that PlayStation Plus always felt like they had an advantage because they give out 13 free games just for signing up with them. And they're big titles, too. They're Infamous 2, things like that. And I've realized, and I don't know why this might not have been something Microsoft has advertised, and I don't know if you guys even know, but Xbox Live stepped it up knowing that they do that. Mm-hmm. And the 1st and the 16th of every month are 2 free games. Yep. Or one on the 16th, one on the 1st of every month is a free Xbox
crazy
game.
discounts.
Right now, Assassin's Creed 2. Right now, Assassin's Creed 2 is the free game. So, Xbox is definitely.
Fable 3 as well.
Fable 3 was last month.
They've done Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Walking Dead.
They've definitely stepped it up there, and I think that's an advantage.
Even the discounts, there were a lot of games on there that were just
yesterday was a Capcom sale. Everything was 50% off with Capcom.
Yeah.
I think right now it is safe to say, except for not knowing what Microsoft's general goal is, that both consoles are in the fair. And I know you had mentioned price, which was something we talked about before, and a lot of people say Xbox is a worse deal because it's $100 more. But I think a lot of people don't realize, and it does depend on who you are as a player, but Xbox is $100 more because it comes boxed with the Kinect. Where PlayStation does not come with the Move. It is an option that you can buy later. But if you wanted the Move, if you are one of those douches that like to play with the PlayStation Move, which I don't understand why, that is an extra $100 to have all that equipment. So really,
That boils down, though, to one of my issues that I've always had with Microsoft, is I feel like they nickel and dime me for everything.
Why not
Sony
just
gives
sell
you the
Kinect?
option whether you want the Move or not. Microsoft is going to force you to take
True.
the Kinect,
Well,
and
you're
I
like-
never, ever use the Kinect for any purpose.
You don't own a Kinect.
I don't, but you have one here, and I can use it anytime I want. But I've played maybe 2 Kinect games ever.
Which
Harry Potter was one of them, where we all 3 sat and played it.
And
I don't
you
even
fucking
remember
hated
the other
it.
one. We played
Kinect Sports.
we
You
played-
played the crap out of with me.
We played it. We played it for maybe 2 hours though, and we never touched it again.
Yeah.
And then we played the what was the horror game that they put out? For
Rise of
Rise of Nightmares. And
You played Marvel. Did you
I
play
never
Marvel?
played Marvel.
Oh, I played Marvel
That's
quite a
fucking
bit.
great. I think, okay, I agree in that sense, though, sadly, because I don't think it should be forced down you by Xbox. But I think in the same sense that Xbox has definitely made it clear that they want to be the main form of media in your house, which means that without Kinect, you don't have the strengths of a full media center, because they really are like, hey, communicate with your Xbox, tell it whatever the fuck you want, and it'll do it. Which, I don't need that as a gamer.
I do see that, but for a gamer, I don't care about
No,
that.
I don't.
I just don't.
Like I said, 2 different goals. 2 different goals for 2 different consoles. One just wants to be the ultimate gaming console. One wants to be the ultimate
Your
media
living room.
console. Yeah, it's just 2 differences, and that's why the Kinect's required, because they want you to have the full experience. Plus, I mean, you're right. It does market to where, well, if I got the Kinect, I might as well go ahead, get these games that require the Kinect.
Right.
Yeah, you're not getting screwed out, and especially a lot of things. I don't care. I don't really need one thing or the other. I'd pay the price anyways, but I know a lot of people, especially Sony fanboys, and I love Sony, I love Xbox, I don't care. I'm not on one side of the line, really. But I know a lot of them are like, well, PlayStation's cheaper, so we win. But I don't think a lot of people are considering that. If that's something that you actually take advantage of, that's why there is that price difference. It's not because Xbox is just charging an extra $100 to be an asshole. They're actually extra material in that you're paying $100 for. Which in my opinion, they should have been separated.
If you make the point, and I'm going to do it for Noah's side of the argument, the PlayStation 4 also comes with 100 extra gigabytes of memories and 100 extra.
I think so.
I haven't seen the pricing.
Not that I can imagine anybody going that high in space, but still, you got it if you want it.
I think
I've used over 120 gigs on my PlayStation. So.
Part of my problem with Microsoft is that I've had to throw 5 freaking Xboxes out the window because of the red ring, etc., and I've had terrible issues. But I think ultimately, Microsoft is a more friendly console, but for hardcore gamers, I feel like PS4 is going to be superior. And Destiny has even said that. They said they have exclusive content, and they said PS4 just can do so much more.
I hate to suggest it, but I'm almost just want to say, I think bottom line is people need to just buy both.
I think we are in a generation, though, that you can't just have one console. I mean, we kind of touched base on exclusives. I think, for the most part, as the consoles go on, launch titles, I think Xbox has a better deal for me, but that caters to my needs. I know that, obviously, behind the scenes, 1886 was something that, obviously, we looked into, and that's something that's going to sell a PlayStation for a lot of people. I think as the consoles continue, though, for me, Naughty Dog, I will always be the console that Naughty Dog supports, because Naughty Dog has made the best games out there. In my opinion. I mean, that's mine.
Xbox almost made themselves unavailable to a lot of demographic when they said you have to do this online check-in thing or you can't even play our games. And there's a lot of people still that are not even capable of logging out online.
It's really disappointing, too, to a degree, because I think it was a smart move for Xbox to a degree. I don't think it's fair that you always need to be on Xbox on Live. I think that's a little shitty.
It's a smart marketing.
But it's smart for the companies that are trying to make money that they deserve.
I completely agree with that. But
The Witcher,
they take away.
It would create a better experience.
Themselves.
It would create a better experience for those of us who play it online all the time. But it would,
which is not an issue to us.
Screw that. And that it brings me back to that interview where whoever the CEO was, it the CEO?
I think it was somebody.
Whoever the guy was from Microsoft
was
saying they were interviewing him at E3, and they're like, "Well, what do you tell this guy who's in a nuclear sub? He works for the military. And he wants to play Xbox in his free time." And he's like, "Well, I guess I'd have to tell him to stick with Xbox 360." Like, you can't really
tell. It's a bad move.
And it was just a bad marketing. And PS4 is just sitting back here saying, "Go ahead, keep going with these interviews. We like it."
It's true, and it's a shame because I think, like we said, I mean, there have been games. The Witcher 2 was something that we almost never got on the console because too many people pirated it. So there was no point for it to even come to a console. And so with that online check, it does ensure it. But I believe Microsoft is still doing that. You have to check the game once online.
Yeah.
Which that may hinder the dude in the submarine unless he can get on land for a quick second or stop by Atlantis.
It goes by who made the game too, because a lot of what I read that said that Xbox had signed deals with, like what you said, with like certain developers to decide how games were going to be done, but the Xbox exclusives that Xbox put out themselves was going to be free reign. You can do what you want with them because you own the Xbox.
Exactly.
It's my understanding. I don't even think if it's 100% clear yet.
This is the issue. Microsoft has not solidified what they are doing. There have been different people that contradict each other.
They're having to rebuild their entire it's model
a really
because
bad,
PlayStation bent them over a table.
Yes, it's a very bad situation. It's a shame, but
neither's going to be a bad system.
No.
I have a bad taste in my mouth because I've had to buy 5 freaking
No,
Xboxes
the 360s have been a pain. I've gone through, I'm on my 4th myself. I'm on the same PlayStation.
The question is,
fanboys are going to rage.
Question is, what are we going to play Destiny on?
And the answer is PS4.
Oh man.
Oh, PS4. Sorry.
They've already made it very clear that's what you should be playing it on.
Even in this generation, the PlayStation 3 has a stronger processor, and it is so much faster, and that's why most games are developed for PlayStation. And Skyrim, games like that. Yes, an example is those games are developed for Xbox, and then they're put over on the PlayStation, which has a stronger processor. But since they originally developed for Xbox, it's garbage on the PlayStation because you can't develop a game for the PlayStation for its max capacity because it would never play on an Xbox. So it's one of those shitty situations. If Bungie completely develops for the PlayStation 4, which it sounds like they are, the Xbox version is nowhere as good. So that's a shame. And the last thing that we kind of talked about too was even certain benefits of the... I don't know anything about Microsoft's deal. I know I own a PlayStation Vita, and PlayStation Vita fans I know are pissed because when it launched, it was supposed to instantly stream PlayStation 3 games, which has not happened and will not happen unless you obviously hack it. But that's an issue that a lot of people were mad. Then the games were suddenly abandoned. No one's made good games for the Vita. But now we find out that all PlayStation 4 games will be able to be played on your Vita via instant streaming. So that's going to be a good resurgence for the Vita, which is awesome. And I know Microsoft is doing their tablet bit, which
Smart Glass.
I don't know much.
Smart Glass. I don't know a whole lot of the details yet either, but I watched a demonstration with somebody just watching Game of Thrones on there, and they pulled their tablet up and had it like looking at it, and it brought up the scene and brought up where on the map of Game of Thrones it was happening, gave you all these backgrounds on the scene.
Second screen.
Yeah, I think it works just like a remote. It like
it's supposed to also be like a secondary game enhancer.
And what we even read on what was that we read on Battlefield 4 where you can take it with you.
My understanding that
Watch Dogs is doing that too. You can have another friend who can use that and hack into different lines, or you can drop bombs or do different things.
That's what it's like on Battlefield 4, is like you can still play with your friends and you can tell them, hey, I'm not on my console anymore, but hey, there's a guy with a tank over there. You know,
and they can log into their phone while they're sitting at work and fucking drop some bombs for you. I saw that with Watch Dogs 2, where you would be able to hack into lines as your friend, which is cool because Watch Dogs is all about hacking. So you have you on a subway driving wherever you're going, and you're sitting there helping a friend.
Another upgrade that we were going to talk about was that each console now has the ability to record everything you do and gives you the opportunity to stream it. Now,
post it up on YouTube instantly.
My argument against what probably Noah's going to say is that I think it's going to be a lot easier to do it on the Xbox, seeing as how it's the media console already. But I'm sure that PlayStation can do it on.
PS4's already announced that was going to be one of the main things, and you're going to be able to do it on PS4.
One thing that may make a difference is you guys, I don't know if you know, Nintendo actually recently came out and said that any video that happens, like for instance, if I uploaded a YouTube video and it was a review for a Nintendo game, they own those rights and they think they deserve that money because it's their material, whether or not it's a journalistic opinion of what I'm doing. They believe that they own those rights. So it would be interesting to see what other developers do, even though PlayStation and Xbox are selling that as a selling point, like, hey, put this out there. Granted, not everyone out there is a YouTube partner, but it does affect those of us who want to take that seriously and make something out of it, because Nintendo believes they need claim in my artistic opinion of a video game. So it'll be interesting to see if other people follow Nintendo in that league. That overall is our thoughts. I mean, we love to see what you guys think. I know a lot of people, one of the reasons we want to talk about it, a lot of people don't know that Microsoft went back on what they said. A lot of people don't know what's going on. I mean, there's a lot of unclarity there. So we'll try to have a lot more structure. One of the things I think I may have stated is I mean, I want you guys to check out my Facebook. I want you to check out my Twitter. You can comment below. I'll probably even, if that's something that they end up doing where they get Twitter or anything like that, I mean, I'll put those down here. And you want to throw questions at us, you want to see what we want to talk about, I mean, that'll help give us a little bit better structure, I think.
Just a little feedback.
Give us topics.
Yeah, I mean, because really if we have things to talk about, I mean, the point of this really isn't to be structured, though. It's just to listen to us talk about what we think about on a normal basis. This is what you're talking about with your friends on a daily basis, so we're doing it in front of you. So, I mean, hopefully you'll enjoy it. We don't know weekly, monthly, I don't know yet. We've talked about
maybe
weekly.
bi-weekly. That might not be a bad.
Leave comments down below. Let us know what you think. Check out the Facebook. Like I said, if there's anything that you guys want to hear us talk about, we'll do it. Talk to us about what you'd like to see from the comic section, because we don't have a pure structure for that. And hopefully you enjoyed it. Those are Noah, Jeremy. Those are those guys. And they'll be back next week, bi-week,
some
month,
some week,
something.
We'll be back.
Yeah, that's it. Now we're going to go
away.
We're done. Bye.
Trevor Clark has had his say to help you find good games to play. Game reviews, tattoos, and news. Poning noobs you'll never lose with Trevor.